Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA Fan Show. I'm Stu Whiffin. Joining me as always, Mr. Blake Harrison. How are you?
Friggin' cold, mate. I'm cold.
We are recording this from the coldest studio. It's about 0 degrees outside and our heating has actually froze, which sounds ludicrous, but a big flaw in a heating system that it freezes when it's cold. So, we are freezing our little tootsies off.
Yeah, coming at you from the Arctic tundra, baby.
But it's worth it because we have got some good shit coming your way. And we'll get into what the show's going to be after we tell you about our sponsor. Who's our sponsor, Blake Harrison?
Fat Candy.
Fat Candy indeed. And it's freeze-dried sweets. If you're watching on YouTube, then you can see right in front of me and Blake is an array of Fat Candy goodies, some shades and a Happy Gilmore ice hockey shirt. But most importantly is the Pick a Mix bags. Now, the Pick a Mix bags are what I would suggest you try because they are heaving with all of the goodies that they do. It's a real little kind of taster. I don't know why I'm explaining Pick a Mix to you. I'm sure you're familiar with the concept.
They know what Pick a Mix is, mate. Yeah,
yeah. But it's not normal Pick a Mix.
Sweets.
It's freeze-dried, so it kind of goes poof and explodes and becomes this big, sugary kind of concoction of goodness. And I can't recommend it enough. So you can, in them Pick-a-Mix bags, I think you've got like Blackjack's fruit salads, Skittles. We're fans of those, aren't we?
Big fans of the Skittles.
And then basically Wham bars, all of the kind of the sweets that you grew up chomping on. But they've just got that little extra kind of weirdness to them now. They're freeze-dried. Anyway, buy a Pick-a-Mix bag, work out which ones you like, then you can buy a job lot of your faves. But whilst you're over at the Fat Candy website, use the discount code. What's the discount code?
Sweet MMA. That's SWEET MMA. And you'll get a cheeky little discount on your freeze-dried sweetie goodness.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's that time of the year again.
Yes, the start of the year, the Champions Predictions episode. We will tell you who we believe will be the champions by the end of 2025, and we will recap on who we thought was going to be champions by the end of 2024, and you will see how we did. Did Blake win? Did Stu win? It's all to play for. But let's start.
Yes, let's start. The big boys.
The big boys, the heavyweight division. So, we've got Jon Jones currently as the champion. It is very obvious. This is the question that's going to plague 2025 until we get some kind of confirmation. Until they both step into the octagon and face each other, everyone's going to be asking, is Tom Aspinall versus Jon Jones actually going to happen? Dana White has guaranteed that it's going to happen. I'm not sure that you can take that to the bank. So is Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones going to happen? Will they fight? If so, who wins? Will someone else step in and grab the heavyweight belt? Last year, just to start with, you picked that Tom Aspinall would be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I picked that Jon Jones would be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. It's 1-0 to me.
Yeah, kind of.
Not kind of. It is. 100% undisputed heavyweight champion. You don't get half points for interim, mate. That's it.
You should get half a point for an interim.
No, you shouldn't. No, absolutely not. No way.
I don't like this version of you. Right, look.
Most people don't, to be fair.
Okay, so look, I think I don't think there's much to hate about my choice. I think had Jon Jones not been the dick that he is, we would have seen my prediction come true. The whole Stipe thing dragged on and on and on and on. No one wanted it.
No.
And we still got it. And surprise, surprise, it was shit.
Yep.
Did Jon Jones look good or did Stipe just look that bad?
Little of column A, little of column B.
I agree. However, Tom Aspinall, He ain't put a foot wrong yet.
Nope.
He's still looking. I think most people know in their heart of hearts that Tom's the rightful champ at the moment. He's the people's champ because John Jones has chose his opponents cleverly.
Yep.
He's utilised his star power and influence within the organisation to kind of, I'm going to fight Cyril Gane, who I'm going to wrestle really comfortably and easily, and then I'm going to fight somebody that's not fought for, was it 4 years? Or,
Yeah.
That put in a really lacklustre performance. Whereas Tom's fought Curtis Blades, Sergey Pavlovich, which people seem to be sleeping on Pavlovich now.
Yeah.
But that
because
guy,
of the result against Volkov was disappointing.
But up until then, oh my God, there was a highlight reel there.
100%.
And I was worried for Tom getting into that fight. And, well, you know, he made very light work of it. Yep. So, okay, so, all right, so it's kind of, so to start with heavyweight, so we're 1-1. So we're going to go...
Absolutely not. It's 1-0.
All right. Okay, so we're now then going to look ahead to who's going to be... I mean, this is such a weird one to discuss, isn't it?
It is, because there's so many variables. So does Tom and John actually happen? There's no guarantee of that happening. Does John just vacate and leave and retire? Does John get stripped because he doesn't want to make that fight happen and the UFC strip him? Does John get his wish and instead of fighting Tom Aspinall, he fights Alex Pereira? We don't know what's going to happen. If John gets stripped and he wants to do a super fight with Alex Pereira and he doesn't care about the belt, do they do Tom versus Cyril Gane? What if Cyril Gane surprises us all and beats Tom? No one's picking Cyril Gane to be champ by the end of the year, but it absolutely could. There's a world in which it could happen.
Not on the performance we saw last time out.
No, but shit happens. He broke his toe or whatever it was in the first kick of the fight or whatever he said. Look,
Tom Aspinall rolls straight through Cyril Gane.
I think so too. But this is heavyweight MMA. Tom said himself, 4-ounce gloves, heavyweight MMA, anything can happen. I think I'm desperately trying to convince myself that Tom v. John actually happens because I think it needs to. Because if it doesn't happen, then the shadow of John Jones looms over the heavyweight division for all time. And even though Tom might become the undisputed champ and for 5 years defend that belt, there will still be a contingent of fans that go, yeah, but he didn't beat John. Yeah, but John would have beat him. John's grappling, John's wrestling, John this, John that. And Tom will always... It's a bit like with Daniel Cormier. With Daniel Cormier, we look back on his career more fondly because of his heavyweight win over Stipe and becoming a heavyweight champion. If he never became the heavyweight champion, then it would be, oh yeah, he was always the second best light heavyweight. Because even when he was champ, that was only because John was stripped.
Sure.
Or something happened to John and whatever it was. So I think there's a danger if Tom doesn't fight John Jones that there's a large contingent of fans that always will be able to go, yeah, but he couldn't have beat John. Yeah, but he's not the real heavyweight champ because John just left. And I would hate that for Tom because I do believe he's good enough to be the best heavyweight on the planet.
Well, look, I think if we're looking ahead, right, I don't see that there's any way that Tom Aspinall is not the heavyweight champ by the end of this year. So the options that you put out are he fights Cyril Gane to either fight for the vacated title.
Yep.
He wins that comfortably. Yep. He fights John Jones, which would be incredible.
Yep.
I don't think John Jones wants to fight Tom Aspinall. I think that's quite clear.
Yep.
And if he does, I think Tom is too fast, too well-rounded, a much, much better striker than John Jones, and too young. And I think he gets the job done.
Yep.
How? I'm not 100% sure, but I don't see that there's any way that John Jones finishes the year as the heavyweight champ. I can't see it. Because even if he beats Tom Aspinall, say they fight in April and he beats Tom Aspinall, then what's next?
Alex Pereira. Money.
At heavyweight.
Yeah.
I don't know. We got See, the things that
And then they
factor
bring back
into
Brock
this,
Lesnar.
the things that factor into this is, look, we're presuming Pereira's going to be fighting Ankalaev soon. And then,
Well, we don't know that. That's another part of the light heavyweight prediction.
But if that
what if Alex
happens-
Pereira ends up heavyweight champ of the world by the end of 2025? There is a possibility
No,
that
there's not.
happens.
No.
There is. He could do it.
I mean, you never write that guy off.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I think if Ankalaev beats Pereira, there's a big chance of that happening. It just makes the light heavyweight division shockingly boring.
Yep.
And I do believe that the UFC are going to try and protect their star in Pereira. We'll talk about this when we get onto light heavyweight a bit more. But there is a world in which maybe he loses to Ankalaev and then the big money then... I presume he'll get a rematch at some point, but I think in between that they may well go, okay, John Jones.
Yep.
And if that means that Tom has to go through Cyril Gane in the meantime, I'd rather Tom stayed active.
Yeah. That's the other worry. Is
But by the end of the year, he would have beaten Cyril Gane in some way, shape or form, whether it be first defence or for a vacated title or
Does he
just
have to
as a
defend
filler
the
fight.
interim again?
This is what I'm saying, as a filler fight until John Jones shits or gets off the pot because it's boring. It pisses me off, mate.
Start the new year happy with him.
Fuck's sake, John Jones.
Right. Well, we've analysed as much as we can the heavyweight division. Who is your pick to be champion by the end of 2025?
Tom Aspinall, of course. Oh, you absolute prick. What are you going to say?
No, I'm going Tom as well. There's part of me
The pause there, I thought, oh, he's going to fucking...
But do you know what it is? There is part of me that just wants to do different to you, just for the sake of it. I don't want to agree with you on anything. I just want to do something different to you. Because it's boring. If we both pick the same people all the time, it's boring.
I think that we'll have different choices as we work our way through.
All right,
but
well, we're both going for Tom Aspinall. It's locked in. 2025, the year of Tom Aspinall. He ends the year as heavyweight champion of the world.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on to light heavyweight. Currently, Alex Pereira, and what a year he had. 3 title defenses, is the champion. Who will be the champion at the end of 2025? Could he fight John Jones? Could he vacate the belt, go up and fight John Jones or Tom Aspinall or something like that? I mean, it would not surprise me if he ends the year up at heavyweight, whether he is the champ at light heavyweight or not. So there's that to consider. In terms of last year, we both picked Ankalaev for the second time in a row. And we both wrong again.
But that shows how long he's been sitting in that room.
He's been sitting in that room a long time, baby.
But he doesn't do himself any favours.
No, he doesn't.
Who did he fight last time out?
Was it Johnny Walker?
Johnny Walker.
But he beat him in a rematch because he had to redo it because he illegally kneed him against the fence. So that he had to fight Johnny Walker twice.
Boring. It was really boring. You know, how can you have a fight with Johnny Walker and it be boring? Unless you're mega boring. Mega boring. I don't even know what that means.
Daddest of dad jokes. That's not even a joke. Mega boring. It doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Oh my God.
So we're thinking, obviously the UFC, it's the last fight they want to make this.
Yeah.
They've got a golden boy in Pereira, haven't they? Where fans love him. The whole, Shama thing, he's so fucking great. And he's just got such star quality, yet barely says or does anything other than that and knock people out in spectacular fashion. Casuals love him. He's got everything that a new fan to the sport would want. An incredible walkout. And can you imagine if Ankalaev's the champ, it doesn't make for a fun year. But look, I don't want to hate on him.
No.
But like, he deserves his shot.
He really does deserve his shot. I think there's a draw and a no contest. He's on a 13 fight unbeaten streak. No, 13 fight unbeaten streak. Magomed Ankalaev.
So he's not lost since Paul Craig.
13 fights unbeaten. There is a no contest in there with Johnny Lawler, and there's the draw with Jan Blachowicz, which was controversial to some people. Whatever, but that's still 11 wins. 11 wins.
Yeah,
and no defeats. The UFC, as you said, just don't want to make that fight. Here's something I just wanted to throw out there. While you were talking, it just occurred to me. Everyone is slagging off John Jones for ducking Tom Aspinall. No one is having a go at Pereira for ducking Ankalaev. Is that fair to say? Is that...
Well, see, the thing is, it's completely fair to say that, but... Fans want fights that are going to be good, right? John Jones versus Tom Aspinall is going to be fucking great.
Yeah, it's true.
However you look at it, like, because if John gets him to the ground, Tom's comfortable down there, and it will be a really and people want to see. I'd like to see what happens when Tom goes into them later rounds as well. And if anyone's going to take him there, it's going to be John Jones. So there's so much of the unknown in that fight. Whereas I think if you look at Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira, what you're going to see is Ankalaev just trying to get him down constantly, and you're not going to see what everyone loves about Alex Pereira, which is fantastic striking. And don't get me wrong, he's got every chance of knocking out Ankalaev. You know, we've seen the deft touch that he's got in them hands. But I think if you look through the... even like the top 7, right? So if you look at who's in there, aside from Ankalaev, who is obviously, number one, you got Yuri, you got Jamal Hill, who's making a lot of noise at the moment.
So much noise, but he's already been smashed by him, so I'm just not interested,
right? Jan Blachowicz, Rakic, who's creeping back into the scene. Carlos Ulberg.
Carlos Ulberg is the interesting one. He's like the dark horse of that division because he's not fought Pereira and he is interesting. And also there's the Israel Adesanya connection as well. Ulberg trains at City Kickboxing. Yeah. They've prepared for Alex Pereira on multiple occasions, from kickboxing to MMA. If Ulberg steps in the cage with Pereira, there's every chance that he's got all the knowledge you need to beat him through his work with Israel Adesanya. So that could be very, very interesting. But I think if Alex Pereira were to fight and beat Ankalaev, I think he's moving up to heavyweight because there's just nothing left for him to prove. He has sort of cleared out the division unless you're giving shots to the likes of Carlos Ulberg, who kind of doesn't quite deserve it yet. I don't think Jan Blachowicz, anyone's thinking, oh yeah, that's a great fight. He's the danger man of that division. So he's got wins over all the people that he needs to have wins over outside of Ankalaev at the moment. If he beats Ankalaev, if you're Pereira, I think you go, I'm moving up. Because he's 37 or something like that as well. So the chance to make history and become a 3-weight world champion, I think he's going to do it.
Do you think if he fights Ankalaev, he gets an immediate rematch?
What, if he loses?
Yeah.
Yes. They will offer it to him if he wants it. It's just whether he wants it. Because I think even if he loses, he might go, nah, screw it, I'll go up to heavyweight.
Okay.
Because again, beating Ankalaev and getting that belt back doesn't mean a huge amount. Whereas going up to heavyweight and fighting the likes of Tom Aspinall or John Jones, that's massive. That would be huge. That would be record breaking and all those kinds of things. So I think that's what he'll do. So I think there's a high possibility that Alex Pereira is not the light heavyweight champ at the end of the year, not just because of the threat of Ankalaev, but because even if he gets past Ankalaev, he might vacate and move on. And then that leaves that division wide open. What do you do then? Do you do Prochazka versus... Well, Prochazka Jamal Hill's coming up soon, I think. I don't know if that's the first pay-per-view.
And Blachowicz is fighting... Is he fighting Ulberg?
That might... I'm not sure. Again, we've got shitty internet here, so I don't know if that's happening, but I'll have to look that up. But that could blow the division wide open.
So, okay, look. So you're saying there's a big possibility that Pereira isn't going to be the champ at the end of the year. So who is?
Just to confirm, Jan Blachowicz, Carlos Ulberg is happening in March.
Right.
So that is happening. And I just want to see... I'm sure that Jamal Hill versus Yuri Prochazka is happening very, very soon. But I just need to find my way there. But I think they might even be happening on the first pay-per-view of the year. But then... Yeah, let me just get this one up. Sorry, this is getting slightly boring for people while I click on different links on Tapology. But yeah, Yuri Prochazka is fighting Jamal Hill, in 2 weeks. So the winner of that fight has probably got a chance at fighting for the belt. Both of them are former champions. Do you put them against a Carlos Ulberg for a vacant title fight? If Ulberg beats Jan Blachowicz...
I've got my thoughts on who I'm picking.
Go on, well, let's go for it then. Who are you picking and what are your thoughts on that then?
I think Ankalaev beats Alex Pereira.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think Carlos Ulberg puts in a very, very solid performance against Jan.
Blachowicz.
And then I think Ulberg fights for the title and beats Ankalaev.
Whoa, Maverick pick from Whipping. You're going Carlos Ulberg to end the year as 2025 champion.
He excites me as well.
I love it. It's a Maverick pick. I absolutely love that pick. I am
All the other fights, we've seen so many of these fights, and a lot of them have been quite underwhelming. And I think Ulberg's looking fresh at the moment, and I think, like, do we want to see Jan win the belt again? Not really.
I don't think he can.
You know, do we really want to see Jamal Hill as champ again? Not really. Like, I don't think they're the most exciting fighters, and I think we need an exciting fighter. If we're going to lose an Alex Pereira to the heavyweight division, potentially, for however long, I don't know, we need someone that's got some fireworks, and I think Ulberg's the man.
Mate.
Fresh blood as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love the pick. I cannot join you.
Okay.
But I love the pick.
All right.
I respect it so much, Whipping. So much.
Go on, what are you going for?
Look, I have picked Ankalaev the last 2 years.
Yep.
I have strongly thoughts of him as the best light heavyweight on the planet, even whilst Alex Pereira has been doing all the bits he's been doing. I'm tripling down. I'm not wrong. I'm just early. All right? And so Ankalaev is still going to be my pick. I can't be wrong. I was just early. So Ankalaev is going to be champ. He's going to beat Pereira, and then he might have one more title defense in there, and whoever it is against, he wins. He's just too well-rounded. He can strike. He's not as boring as everyone complains. Mega boring. He's not as bad as everyone complains about. But he's well-rounded. He can go to his wrestling. He can go to his striking. He's a very, very good fighter.
Jan Blachowicz is a really well-rounded fighter. Now, if for some reason, against my choice and my pick, Blachowicz beats Carlos Ulberg, okay, do you think on the grounds of their last fight, the UFC will not make another fight between Jan Blachowicz and Ankalaev?
But I don't think the front runner to fight for the belt next would be the winner of Ulberg Blachowicz. I think the front runner would be the winner of Jamal Hill, Yuri Prochazka. Yeah. And I think Ankalaev versus Jamal Hill or Yuri Prochazka, big fight. Ankalaev would need characters because his personality doesn't really shine through. So someone like Yuri or someone like Jamal Hill would give him that kind of foil to work off of as a quiet champion. And yeah, that would work for me. So I think the winner of that will fight him. But I say, if Ulberg puts in a phenomenal performance and Pereira's still champion, then you're looking at something else. Or if they just really don't want Ankalaev to ever get to that belt. I think Ulberg's a fantastic pick. It's dark horse, but fantastic pick. But got to go Ankalaev.
Okay, let's discuss middleweights. Okay, currently the champ is Dricus du Plessis. How do we see things playing out in 2025? What did we predict last year, Mr. Harrison?
Last year in the middleweight division, I believe, it pains me to say it, I picked Khamzat Chimaev. You picked Dricus du Plessis.
Oh!
So is that 1-1?
Oh, hang on. Now, where did we go last year? Ankalaev. Oh, did we
We
both?
both did Ankalaev, so
Right,
we're both wrong.
okay.
So it's now 1-1.
Yeah.
You picked Dricus, a great pick. I don't think I was anticipating how much that nose job would help Dricus, but it clearly did. I picked Khamzat, which is just... I mean, we might get to this in a minute because I'm a little bit torn with my middleweight pick because Khamzat is a difficult guy to pick to be champion because there's a lot of baggage that comes with Khamzat Chimaev. But as the lay of the land at the moment is that Dricus is booked to fight Sean Strickland again in February in Australia. That first fight, I picked Sean Strickland. No, I scored that fight for Sean Strickland. So even though Dricus won, I believe really the decision should have gone to Strickland. Not a robbery.
Well, we should also say, like, for considering they're like champ and number one contender, both very, very unorthodox fighters.
Yes, very
Like,
unorthodox.
Strickland's style is insane to watch, but yet it seems to, well, it clearly confuses Raul Adesanya. And Dricus just seems chaotic and I don't know, messy at times, but it's very fucking effective.
Yeah.
And like you say, since that nose job this year, the cardio no longer seems to be an issue for DDP.
Great performance against Adesanya.
Yeah.
As well, and obviously Rob Whittaker prior to that, and yeah, I mean, look, in terms of the match in February, you got Sean Strickland and Dricus. Who do you think wins that fight? Firstly,
DDP.
You think so? Do you think it's a similar fight? Do you think it's very, very close again?
No, I think we're going to see a much more effective Dricus. I think he would have watched that last fight, absolutely picked apart his shortfallings, and I think he's the champ. I think he's going to come in and look impressive.
I feel similar. Even though the first fight I scored for Strickland, I think this second fight, I think DDP's going to get a more... I don't know that he's going to get a finish, but a more comprehensive decision, maybe. So Dricus, February, retains the belt. That's what we're saying.
I think so.
And then from there on, you assume he's got to defend it at least one more time.
We've got Izzy versus Imavov coming up, haven't we?
Izzy versus Imavov is coming up, which I think is really interesting. In terms of like dark horses, Imavov, if he gets a win over Izzy, could definitely slip into a title fight. Kyle Borralho has looked really, really good lately. And he just needs one fight against someone ranked above him. Maybe it will be a Rob Whittaker once his teeth are put back. But I don't know. But I think that Kyle Borralho's a dark horse in that division. Imavov's a dark horse in that division. But the big question for me is, do the UFC pull the trigger on a Khamzat Chimaev title shot?
100%.
Well, here's the thing with Khamzat. Here's why I'm worried
so you're going
that
to
they
talk
might
about the
not.
politics of him as where he can fight and things like that, right?
Well, there's the illnesses. I don't know if he's missed weight at middleweight yet, but obviously he was a terror for it at welterweight. He's unreliable with some of it is outside of his control, like the health issues and stuff like that. It's just, can you rely on Khamzat Chimaev to get to the cage? He fights like once a year now. After being so active when he first exploded onto the scene and everyone loved him for that, his activity has really waned. And he hasn't fought outside of the Middle East for about 2.5 years. And a lot of people say that's to do with certain visa issues and who he's aligning himself with politically or stuff like that. So I don't know what the reasons for that is. These are just things that you hear.
Look,
can the UFC have a fighter that only fights, a champion, who only fights in Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia? Can they have that? And not only that, but let's say they say to Dricus, well done, you beat Sean Strickland. We really want you to fight Khamzat. He's like, great, I'll fight Khamzat. They're like, yeah, but you have to fight him in Saudi Arabia or Abu Dhabi. He's like, no, I want to fight in South Africa. Oh, but Khamzat can't fight in South Africa. Tough. I am not fighting in those regions. And then the UFC's like,
but then I think if them conversations arise, which very plausible, then I think Dricus names his price. And there's a lot of money in Saudi. And I think, like, then, look, everyone's got a price.
Money talks, you're absolutely right.
like,
Riyadh season, all that stuff.
Yeah.
If Strickland's like, well, I want to double my purse if you want me to fight in that
DDP.
region. Dricus, yeah.
Yeah.
If he says, I want to double my purse to fight in that region, maybe the UFC goes to that Turkey Al Sheikh and other people that might be putting on those fights and go, this is what he wants. Would you be willing to pay that so that we could fight here and have Khamzat as a title fight? And they'd probably say, yeah.
And I think, I think Dricus is, handsome, cool guy, and seems pretty cool in the media. And I don't think his
relationship with them's definitely improved.
Yeah, I don't think
the whole real African champion thing was a bit of a bad mark on his history in terms of his relationship with the media and fans and stuff like that. But he does seem to have improved that relationship
100%.
Recently.
But I don't think he's necessarily a fan favourite. So, just looking at the division, in a weird fucking world, Sean Strickland's a fan favourite. He's not a favourite of mine, but he is a fan favourite. Izzy is a fan favourite. Mm-hmm. Bobby Knuckles. I mean, I wish they'd just give Bobby Knuckles like Sam Alvey or something and just let him just get a fucking mega win. Just because...
He only just came off that Ikram Aliskerov win and that was phenomenal.
I fucking love Bobby Knuckles. Yeah. And look, the big star in that division, make no mistake, is Khamzat. And I think the UFC know that if he's the champ and they can make them big fights in Saudi, once he's beaten Dricus, then there's going to be no shortage of people lining up to fight him. And if them fights can happen where there's mega money available, the UFC are going to be all over it because he is a star. However, it is that inactive thing that is the worry, that you get a champ. We've been moaning about John Jones and, do we finally see this hype train get the belt and then all of a sudden we see him fight every year and a half or every year and it's like, we don't want that. Yeah. Dricus is an active champ. He seems to be happy to, to fight when the fights are presented. All right. So who's your choice for 2025?
This is, it's a tricky one because I really want to pick Khamzat. That's who I think is the best middleweight in the division. And what he did to Rob Whittaker was scary. So I think if Khamzat fights for the belt, he's the champ. And I don't think anyone's taking it off of him. The problem is, does he get to the cage? Does he get to fight for the belt with all the reasons that we've spoken about? Can he get there, be healthy, make the weight? Will someone fight him in the regions that he's allowed to fight in? Will the UFC want a fighter, a champion that can only fight in those regions? They are developing a great relationship, it seems, with that part of the world, and there are more and more cards happening in that part of the world, so maybe.
You've only got to look at what's happening in the world of boxing, and Dana White will be looking at that going, give me a big slice of that.
Yes. So I think I am going to pick Khamzat Chimaev. However, I think there's a real chance that DDP Khamzat gets booked, and for whatever reason, Khamzat can't make the fight, and on 2 weeks' notice, in pops Carl Borralho or Nasruddin Imavov if he beats Israel Adesanya. And all of a sudden, you could have a champion by the end of the year that no one was thinking was going to be champ. But who are you going for?
Khamzat.
You're going Khamzat as well?
I just think all of the things that we've discussed, I think...
So you don't fancy Dricus over Khamzat? If they get in the cage, you think Khamzat does Dricus?
Oh,
Yeah.
I
think it could be close. It could be a fun fight.
Absolutely. I learned a long time ago not to write off Dricus. He comes good, and he's got.
Yeah,
that
you are writing him off. I learned a long time ago not to write off Dricus, but here I am writing him off because Khamzat Chimaev.
I do think Khamzat is that good.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, isn't he?
And like you say, the way that he went through Bobby Knuckles was horrific, and I think there's a reason that everybody's been talking about Chimaev for so long, and it's because he is really exciting. He is a superstar, and I think this year we're going to see the belt round his waist.
Yep, I agree. Well, let's move on. We're both locking in Hamzat Chimaev. It is getting colder and colder in this
Do you know
bloody
what?
studio.
I just looked, and both of us had our hands in our pockets at one point. I keep holding me cup of coffee, trying to warm myself up.
Oh, man.
That's how much we bloody love you. We're freezing delivering
We
the
are
show to
freezing. The internet's been terrible. We can't keep ourselves warm. This studio's falling
And also,
apart.
just quickly, whilst I'm drinking this coffee, 2 people went on Buy Me a Coffee and bought us a coffee over Christmas.
Thank you very much.
The link's in the show notes if you want to buy us a coffee. Thank you, Tom, for the coffee. And if you want to click that link in there, buy us a coffee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or an electric heater. Either one.
Do you know what? We've got one out there.
Why have you brought it in?
It's literally just there. I don't know why I've not plugged it in. We used to have it under the table, didn't we? Another thing that people don't know. No, we keep our little tootsies warm with a little secret heater.
Little tootsies. This is the weirdest MMA show out there.
No, I know.
So many MMA shows like, yeah, lads, lads, and we're like, we keep our little
When you get
tootsies
them
warm.
comments on YouTube, with like, why does this show not get more views? It's probably like because them fucking idiots are talking about their
cold toes.
their little tootsies. We're so not alpha. Sorry, lads.
The subscriptions have plummeted. Right. Couldn't remember his name for a second. See what I did there? Remember the name, if you can. Bilal Muhammad is the champ at welterweight at the moment.
Oh, that was Bilal's.
What?
Bilal's. Sorry.
Oh, God. Wow.
Chiming in
I
with
hope
some
that bit gets clipped out of the show.
dad jokes today, guys.
Oh. Welterweight. Let's go. Welterweight. Both of us. Oh, sorry.
Fell asleep, man.
We both picked Leon Edwards to be champion at the end of the year. I think we didn't see Bilal
Coming out of the room.
No, we knew he was going to get a title shot, I think, or we anticipated he'd get a title shot. I just think with Leon having fought Usman twice, then Covington, I just thought stylistically he could deal with Bilal no problem. Clearly, that wasn't the case. Bilal was able to put pressure on him, dumped him on his head at one point really badly. Bilal also working with Khabib and Islam over there.
Look, Bilal looked great against
He
Leon.
looked very good.
He's not the most charismatic and exciting fighter.
No.
And just looking at him there, he's not where you're not going to get millions of people going, this guy is the best. I'm a massive Bilal fan. But he's earned his shot.
Yeah.
And he grabbed it with both hands and made it look relatively easy, I thought.
Yeah.
And I don't think the UFC want this guy as the champ.
No, I think, he was supposed to fight Shavkat at the end of the year. That didn't happen because of a very disgusting, was it bone disease?
Yeah.
Something with his toe. Speaking of toes, tootsies. Something with his tootsie.
Yeah.
And Shavkat fought Ian Gary. So you have to imagine that the first title defense for Bilal Muhammad will be Shavkat Rakhmonov. However, I believe it was Daniel Cormier that came out with something about Shavkat suffering an MCL injury just before the Gary fight, apparently, which really potentially puts the Gary fight into a whole new perspective if he was fighting with a MCL injury. So that could delay him getting back. So is Shavkat the first title defense for Bilal? Or does Bilal fight someone else before Shavkat gets a title shot? That is another thing to consider with this one. I do think the first title defense will be Shavkat, but there's always a danger that it's not. Do you have any thoughts on kind of how you think the division plays out, and if they fight each other in the first half of the year, who would be the next guy up to fight the winner of Bilal Shavkat?
So I think, we shouldn't question the fact that Rakhmonov deserves the shot now.
100%.
Looked solid against a solid Ian Gary.
I think Ian Gary's really good. So I think people are like, oh, Shavkat didn't finish him because Shavkat finishes everyone. But if he had an MCL injury and he dealt with Ian Gary, who I think could be also one of the best welterweights on the planet at the moment,
100%.
I think that just shows how good Shavkat is.
So if we're going to basically see a fight made for Bilal, Shavkat's not fit for that fight.
Do you think he won't be fit for the first fight?
I don't know. I'm just looking. if they need to push someone through for that, I don't think they're going to get... No one's going to want to watch Leon fight him again. I'd be interested to see who Leon's going to fight.
Well, Leon's fighting in March.
So
that hasn't been announced, but Leon's fighting in March.
We presume... Well, obviously, you're wishing it's fucking...
Masvidal.
Still,
I think it might be someone. It could be a Buckley. It could be a Sean Brady. I think Buckley could be a dark horse in this division.
Right.
Now, again,
So
but not as a. He would have to slip in there because someone's injured.
So
go on.
That's where I was going.
Go on.
If
Take me on
Rachmanov
a journey,
doesn't fight,
Whiffin.
I think they're going to look at Joaquin Buckley and go, give him a go.
What? Straight into a title shot?
Well, who else do you give it to? If Rachmanov doesn't, Jack Della's fighting, isn't he? He's fighting.
Well, it's not confirmed, but
right.
the whole rumor is that he's fighting Usman in Australia, but that's not confirmed.
Okay, and so Ian Gary's maybe, I don't know. I presume Sean Brady's probably like, I don't want to fight him.
I think Sean Brady would fight Gary.
I mean, if I was Sean Brady, I'd be looking up. I wouldn't be looking back down. I know that
Gary's a big name. I think you take on Gary.
But I think Ian Gary fights Colby Covington this year.
I don't think Colby takes that fight.
I think that's the only fight for Colby that's going to have anyone interested.
No way. Gary would smash the shit out of Colby Covington.
I'm all over that.
Colby ain't taking that fight.
Right. So,
no way Colby's taking that fight.
So you still think Masvidal's going to come over to London and fight Leon?
Well, I don't know. I actually think there's a high possibility that Leon has to fight a Sean Brady or a Joaquin Buckley.
Absolutely, and rightly so.
And the winner of that fight would possibly be in line for a title shot next. I think Shavkat gets the shot. I don't think the MCL is as bad as maybe people have been saying. And I think Shavkat gets the shot and wins. And then it's just down to who out of the other people sticks their head above the parapet? Who can Gary come back from that loss and put on a good enough win to get a title shot straight away? I'm not sure. Joaquin Buckley needs one more. Sean Brady needs one or two more. Jack Della Maddalena, after a win over Usman, if that happens, could go straight into a title shot. There's an outside chance that Islam Makhachev steps up in weight. He's been talking about it for a while.
He's not going to fight Belal, is he?
No, but if Shavkat, if Islam beats Sarukian in 2 weeks' time, and then Shavkat fights Belal in April or May, maybe Islam goes, I can be ready for September, welterweight. And they go, that's a huge fight, Shavkat versus Islam Makhachev. It's definitely a possibility.
It's a big possibility, that.
All right, let's get down to it. We've talked about potential options, different people, all that stuff. I think Shavkat is the best welterweight on the planet, has been for a while. And I believe if he fights for the belt, he wins it. And I don't think anyone else is beating him yet. So I'm going Shavkat.
I think the fighters that I do think stand a good chance against Rachmanov, I think Jack Della is really, really good. I'm a big fan. I also, and I know we've had people on the socials going, well, fucking Stu climb out of Ian Gary's ass. I think,
we had
that. I fucking think Ian Gary's fantastic.
He is very good.
And I don't think his stock dropped after that fight against Shavkat.
I think it went up.
And also, no fucker wanted to fight Shavkat.
No.
Everyone said no. Ian Gary went, yeah, fuck it. And fans like that.
Yep.
But I think Shavkat beats Belal Muhammad, and I think it depends when that fight happens. If that fight doesn't end up happening until like June, July, then I think that's all we're going to see from Shavkat this year. But if he fights again, then I think there is a chance that fight might be against Jack Della Maddalena, and then I think Jack beats Shavkat.
You are coming out with some maverick picks again. So you're going as your pick, Jack Della Maddalena.
I'm going to go Shavkat.
Oh,
no, I'm going Shavkat, but I just think that the time is not going to work for Jack.
Right, okay.
I think the fact that I don't think we're going to see a fight between Belal Muhammad and Rachmanov anytime soon.
So you think 2026 Jack Della Madalena's the champion?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, mate, I don't see that, but good on you.
Going to move over to the lightweight division now. Current champ is obviously Islam Makhachev. How are we seeing this one planning out?
We both picked Islam Makhachev to be champion by the end of 2024. We were both correct, so we are 2-2 on our predictions. 2025, I think, sees the biggest test for Islam Makhachev at 155 pounds in Arman Sarukian. That's taking place in just a couple of weeks' time. That's such a great fight, man. Like, that is pure mixed martial arts, just high quality grappling, high quality striking. Everything about it is, it's not the most chatty, the most charismatic guys or anything like that. Just two guys that are elite, champ and number one contender. I know we've seen that fight before, but it was Sarukian's debut in the UFC, and it was still a really interesting fight, a close fight. I really believe this is Islam's toughest test, and if he comes through this, I don't know what's left for him at lightweight that's a challenge for him, which is why I wonder if he could go up in weight. So
if he did, do you think he'd vacate?
I don't think he'd want to. It's whether the UFC would make him. But I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think he'd be saying, well, hang on, Volk didn't have to vacate to fight me. So why should I have to vacate? I think he'd like the idea of having those two belts over each shoulder.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's got more about him in terms of like ego than Khabib. I feel like Khabib
massively.
had a kind of like...
Massively.
There was something about Khabib that was just like some old school honour amongst, above all else type thing.
Unless you're an
Khabib.
Irish fighter, he doesn't seem to be saying much nice stuff about Irish fighters at the moment.
Well, he's spitting facts. All he was saying was Dagestan has better MMA fighters than Ireland. And he's right. Even if Paul Hughes went and beat Usman Nurmagomedov, which I don't know that he would, but even if he did, the totality of Dagestani fighters is better than the totality of Irish fighters.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
But that's what he's saying. And so he's only speaking the truth. And I don't know what the question was that led to him to have that quote, but I'm sure it led him down that path.
Islam's way more feisty, man. Like,
Islam's got more about... I think he's got more of an ego about him, Islam. And I think he wants that shot of him with the two belts.
Do you think... Okay, so... Do you think Sarukian's going to beat him?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say I think Islam beats Sarukian. And Islam could defend the belt 3 times this year because he's fighting in January. Maybe he gets 3 title defenses. Or maybe he gets 1 more title defense and then moves up to welterweight. That's the thing with Islam. If he hadn't been talking so much about moving up to welterweight, and obviously Bilal being the champ's preventing him from doing that, but had he not wanted to do it so outspokenly before, I'd be thinking, oh, he's just going to stay at lightweight and absolutely smash it. But one more win, the win over Sarukian, which I believe is the toughest fight in the division for him. If he wins that fight, he is the longest reigning UFC lightweight champion in terms of title defenses. Like, he's got 4 title defenses at lightweight, which is the best anyone's ever done. Prior to him, it was Khabib and BJ Penn, I believe, tied with 3 title defenses. So now he's already the best lightweight champ of all time. Does he keep just fighting like Charles Oliveira again and anyone else that comes through at lightweight? Or does he go, I'm done with this now. I've achieved what I need to achieve. Let me move up to welterweight and do that. And does that leave the belt wide open for like a Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, whoever else? I don't know. We'll have to just wait and see. That's the tricky thing with this is, do you stay with Islam thinking he's the best in the division, or do you think, well, he could be leaving, so it could be wide open? I mean, if he does move up in weight and either vacate or get stripped or whatever it is, who's there as the next guy is up?
Right,
I'm thinking, go on.
Right. If this is the hype is to be believed,
Yep.
they're talking about Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett.
Oh, God, here we go, yeah.
Right? In a world...
In a world, yeah.
where, let's say, Paddy submits Michael Chandler.
Very possible.
People have been writing off Paddy, yet apart from the questionable win over
Jared
Gordon, no one thought he was going to finish Bobby Green.
No.
And I do think he keeps his chin up high. And I did think that if anybody was going to expose that, it was going to be King Green, who I think is one of the best boxers in the UFC. That did not happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen, but it's not like it didn't happen because Bobby Green was doing the right things and Paddy has learnt from that mistake of having his chin high. It didn't happen because Bobby Green shot a really weird takedown from miles out and Paddy was like, oh, I'll take that. Thank you very much. Yeah, cheers, mate.
Anyway, so look, let's just imagine in a world where Paddy submits Michael Chandler.
Yeah.
Right? I don't necessarily. I think Chandler's too explosive, and I think, but he's getting older, I think Paddy's confidence is probably at an all-time high at the moment.
Yeah,
and I'm sure he's just evolving as a fighter. I hope we're fans of Paddy Pimblett. If Paddy submits Michael Chandler, right, that is fucking huge. Now Paddy is a superstar already. Yeah. If he beats Michael Chandler, who only 4 or 5 months ago was going to be fighting Conor McGregor, the most famous fighter on the planet, if Paddy the Baddy beats Michael Chandler and calls out for the belt, do you think the UFC makes that happen?
I don't know. I'm not sure. There are
Paddy,
bigger stars in the lightweight division.
But he's fought them all. They've all fought.
Not Max Holloway.
Apart from Max.
Max.
I don't think Max goes anywhere near Islam Makhachev. I don't think I don't think that's
Max would take that fight all day long.
I don't think that's a winnable fight. That's not a winnable fight.
I would favour Islam Makhachev for sure. But if you're Max Holloway and they say we want you to fight Islam, he'll say yes, no problem.
Who's got the best chance of beating Islam Makhachev? Max Holloway or Paddy Pimblett? Now, I'm not saying Paddy's better than Max, but stylistically matching up against Islam, who do you think's got the best chance?
I'm going to say Max.
How would he beat him?
Well, you don't see Max taken down very often. I know Islam is a different beast when it comes to takedowns and things, but you don't see Max taken down very often. And if it's on the feet, Max is winning that fight.
Yeah. I'm playing devil's advocate.
I know, yeah. But and Paddy is like, if he gets taken down, yes, he's got great jiu-jitsu, but is it jiu-jitsu good enough to beat the Dagestani wrestling of Islam Makhachev? I don't think so. And on the feet, I think Islam's striking is very underrated.
Very good.
Very good.
We've seen that massively. We saw what happened.
And Paddy's a bit more of a brawler when it comes to his striking at times. I mean, he's shown moments of being a bit more precision and using his kicks well. He has had a few nice moments with
He does look wild at times.
But he does look wild at times.
Make no mistake.
So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, people out there, Charles Oliveira looks like he's probably getting a title shot soon because he, outside of the Sarukian fight, and obviously he's lost to Islam, he keeps winning, and he was one of the most exciting UFC champions we've ever had. Like,
he's
Oliveira
fantastic.
was unbelievable. Justin Gaethje, all right, he's coming off the loss to Max. He needs to do more. But he's always in with a shot of a belt. Dustin Poirier reckons he's only got 1 or 2 more fights left in him.
So I
can't imagine he's getting the belt. I thought you were going to pick him again. Dan Hooker is a fun fight for anyone. I mean, but again, he's got a loss to Islam, and I just don't think he's actually really should be in the top 5. But he's definitely a fun fight for like a Paddy or anything like that. I'd like to see him rematch Michael Chandler, actually. That'd be good, because that first fight was over before it started. But I don't know. Mateus Gamrot has had some tough luck here and there and lost that fight to Dan Hooker. I don't know, man. I'm not sure. But I think ultimately my perspective is that Islam Makhachev is the best lightweight on the planet. His toughest test is Arman Sarukian, but I think he gets past him. And I suppose it's just down to whether or not he wants to move up in weight and whether he vacates the belt. I'm going to say he's still the champion of the lightweight division by the end of 2025.
I go with that as well. I think he beats Sarukian, And then I think he does eye up welterweight. And if he does do that, then I don't think they'll strip him of the belt if it's just for one fight.
Yeah.
I think he finishes the year with that belt still over his shoulder and potentially with another one.
There you go. Well, we could be seeing Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway for the vacant lightweight belt or an interim belt or something like that at some point in the year, maybe. But we're both going with Islam Makhachev. Let's move on to men's featherweight.
Ilia Topuria and the featherweight division.
What a year it has been for Ilia Topuria.
Unbelievable.
We both got this one wrong. I went very heart over head, and I couldn't not pick Volk just because of how much we love Volk. But I was very concerned about Topuria. You picked Topuria to beat Volk, and you were correct. Heartless, but correct. But then you rightly predicted he would fight Max Holloway afterwards, and you thought Max would
light him up.
School him.
Yep.
Absolutely school him, which did not happen. Topuria was the first man ever to knock out Max Holloway. What a year for Ilia Topuria. The end of the Volk era, the start of this extraordinary Ilia Topuria era. What do we see happening? I think it looks like it's probably going to be another title defense against Volkanovski. Volk has earned a rematch, but do we really want to see it? I'm scared for Volk, if I'm honest. I don't really want to see that fight. Movsar Evloev is undefeated and he's not making any friends at the UFC, it seems, but he certainly deserves a title shot. Diego Lopez is someone that's been on an absolute tear and has been looking really, really good. What do we think happens in 2025?
I think he fights Volk. He said Volk deserves the shot.
Yep.
He's a great champion. I'd much rather see Volk barbecuing and just being a fucking great guy, enjoying his retirement, maybe having some fun fights.
I'd like to see Volk Poirier.
Yeah. Well, we'll get on to BMF and stuff later. But I think Diego Lopez is somebody that he's really growing as a fighter, and people seem to really like him. And there's power in that mullet.
There's power in that mullet.
But look, I'm going to make this quick, right? Nobody is taking that belt from Ilia Topuria anytime soon. We are watching one of the greatest evolving, I think.
Yeah. I think the toughest fight for Topuria might be Movsar Evloev.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that as someone that believes Arnold Allen beat Movsar Evloev. I think Diego Lopez is fun, really big for the division, really fun. But I don't know that he's got the skills to beat Ilia Topuria. I think we're seeing something special with Ilia. I mean, again, the only danger with Ilia is he keeps moaning about potentially moving up, and he's barely done anything at featherweight. I mean, I know that's wrong for me to say. It's not that he's barely done anything at featherweight. Obviously, he's knocked out two absolute legends. He's done a lot at featherweight, but he's only had one title defense. You're not moving up yet, mate. Don't start going down that road now. Let's see you beat Volk again and then beat, ideally, Movsar Evloev, I think. So I think he's earned it more than Diego Lopez, but him or Diego Lopez, and then beat the other one as well. Hopefully Arnold Allen beats Yair Rodriguez and he can find his way into a title shot. Let's clear
Arnold
out
Allen,
that
Ilia
division a bit.
Topuria is a great fight.
I think it's a great fight. I mean, there's people, he's beat Volk, he's beat Max. That's great. They're 1 and 2. Diego Lopez is 3rd. Movsar Evloev is 4th, which doesn't make a huge amount of sense because Evloev has a win over Diego Lopez, but there you go. Yair Rodriguez is 5. Brian Ortega is 6. Arnold Allen is 7. He's got a win over Josh Emmett already at 8. Aljamain Sterling, obviously coming off a loss, is 9. But I think there's a world in which Topuria should just try and be active and go, right, take on Volk again, then take on Lopez or Evloev. Maybe get 3 title defenses in this year, or if not, fight again early 2026.
I think that's probably how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
I don't see the UFC looking to move him up in divisions just yet. Like you say, I think, yes, he's got 2 spectacular wins over absolute legends. But apart from that, there's people in that division that are dangerous, that are exciting, that I think, would make for really good fights. And I think you've got to do, if Islam goes up, fine. He's earned that. He's fought everyone, and pretty much everyone. But I think Ilia, he's got business a featherweight, and I think that needs to be taken care of before you start looking elsewhere.
I agree. My rule is you've got to have 3 title defenses before you think about moving up. Having said that, let's say Islam Makhachev does move up in weight and goes up to welterweight, which he would have deserved if he beats Arman Sarukian. Is there a world in which the UFC goes, well, to make a vacant title fight for the lightweight belt really, really exciting, do you have on one side a Charles Oliveira, and do you say, go on then, Topuria, let's come up in weight and let's take on Charles Oliveira for the vacant belt? And I tell you what, I might favour Topuria in that fight against Charles Oliveira.
Okay.
God, that'd be I didn't even really think of that when we were looking at lightweight, but I'm like, what if Ilia Topuria ends the year as both the featherweight and the lightweight champ?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I think, as I said, there's business to take care of. The UFC clearly like Diego Lopez, less so Imavov. Yeah. But I think Lopez seems like it's got a healthy following as well. Yeah. And I think there could be a fun fight there. Look, let's not write off Volk. We've seen Volk do some spectacular things over the years.
But I'm worried.
But,
I'm not. The thing is, here's where I've got to with Volk, and I love Volk. I'm not thinking about him losing this fight. I'm worried about him getting sparked out in this fight. That's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about him going from knockout against Makhachev, knockout against Topuria, knockout against Topuria again. And I just don't want to see it for him. I want him to be healthy. I'd rather him go up in weight and, as you say, have some fun fights, do some fun things. You're one of the greatest featherweights to ever do it. Pound for pound, 100%. Great. And what a nice guy. No controversies or anything. Funny. Like, he's got a career outside of fighting, surely, where he can just keep doing adverts and joke things and become a bit of a celeb, do reality show, whatever he wants to do. Like, he's a really nice, fun guy.
The world loves Volk.
We all love Volk. Old Man Volk is a great character. He just went with it. We can't say enough nice things about Volkanovski. But I just don't want to see him get smashed up by Topuria again.
He's not going to finish the year with that belt around his waist. But, champions do champion things sometimes, and you never know. Yeah. But my pick is Ilia Topuria.
Same. I think we're seeing something special with Topuria, and I think if anyone's got a chance to be a 2-weight world champion, it's maybe him. Not necessarily this year, but at some point in his career. I do think he's special. We've picked the same fighters for the last 4 weight categories, I think. But let's move on. Where are we going now?
Bantamweight.
Let's go. Currently, we've got Merab Dvalishvili as the champion. That was not how either of us saw this. And this is probably my worst pick of the whole thing.
Okay.
I picked, and I hated my pick when I said it, but I picked Marlon Vera.
Did you?
I did. He was about to fight for the belt. I thought maybe his chin would hold up well, which it did against Sean, and that he would do very well like he did in the first fight. But no, that did not work. I picked Chito Vera, and I thought they would get a rematch, and he beat him again. Boy, was I wrong. Sean O'Malley took Chito Vera to school.
What did Stuart Whitfield say? Did I go Corey?
You went Corey Sandhagen. And... you were torn between him and Sean O'Malley, but both wrong. Both very, very wrong. Sean O'Malley started the year
You was more wrong.
I was well more wrong. I was so more wrong. Sean O'Malley started the year as the champion. Got his first title defense under his belt against Vera, as we mentioned. And then it was the year of Merab, who dominated Henry Cejudo by picking him up and joking with Mark Zuckerberg whilst he was beating Henry Cejudo up. And then he took the belt from Sean O'Malley at the Sphere. So big year for Merab Dvalishvili. 2025 sees him defend the belt in just 2 weeks' time. He is the first defending champion of 2025. Does he remain the champion by the end of 2025? Stuart Hoefen.
This is... I think for all of Merab's I guess, stronger things he's got in his favour. You know, we know that Merab's wrestling and cardio is great, and we knew that was going to be effective against the likes of a Sean O'Malley, whose ground game and wrestling isn't in that league. Umar Nurmagomedov, that's a problem, isn't it?
I think it's a big problem. I've been hearing more and more people convinced that Merab can beat Umar.
I mean, he totally can.
He can, but for me, that performance against Corey Sandhagen made me go, "Oh, Umar's the best 135-pounder on the planet," because it's very hard to do what he did to Corey Sandhagen, who I still rate very highly.
Merab and Corey are very different fighters,
and we all know styles make fights, and you know that is definitely something to consider. I just think that Umar's wrestling ability will be able to negate Merab's wrestling ability, and when it comes to a fight on the feet, I think Umar is a level above Merab, and I don't think that he should have too many issues with him on the feet, but we will see. So I'm going for an Umar win in 2 weeks' time against Merab.
How?
I think he beats him up on the feet. Maybe it's a decision win, but
But why didn't O'Malley do that?
Because he wasn't able to negate the wrestling. Whereas Umar will be able to negate the wrestling. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's a really stupid fucking question, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty fucking stupid. Not as stupid as picking...
Thanks for humouring it, though.
No, not as stupid as picking Marlon Vera to be champ by the end of 2024.
Jeez, I was looking fucking great.
He was. Not anymore. Look, I think Umar could be champ, and he could be the champ for the next few years. Who's next in line after Merab? If Umar does win, you're looking at Sean O'Malley again, maybe, because Sugar is someone that gets special treatment and could get a title shot again. Yarn's looked good. Does Pantoja come up in weight?
Let's not sleep on Yarn. Ranked third.
Yeah, I mean, he's come through that very difficult spell. Pantoja could move up in weight. I don't see any of those people we've just mentioned beating Umar Nurmagomedov.
Can you? Okay, Pantoja versus Merab. How would you see that?
I'd say Merab wins that, but I don't know for
just
sure.
Just on size?
Just on kind of size, yeah, and the grappling and yeah.
Okay.
But again, that's if Pantoja were to move up. I'm going Umar Nurmagomedov. That's the shout. I think it has to be.
I want to say the same again, but it's going to be boring, isn't it?
It's getting pretty boring, yeah.
I'm going to say Sean O'Malley.
No way. You're going to say Sean O'Malley beats Merab or Umar? Really?
I don't want to say Nurmagomedov, and I don't think...
I would rather say Merab than Sean O'Malley.
But I think if Merab wins, I don't think they give him Sugar again.
I think they could.
If Umar wins, I think they give him Sugar.
I think either one of them wins. I think Sugar could get the title fight again. He has that whole narrative about the fact that he actually won the fight, which I don't necessarily agree with, but...
that's utter horseshit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a world in which he could fight either one of those guys before the end of the year for a title, but I just don't think he beats Umar.
Do you know what? We spoke about this just before Christmas, that we thought that Nurmagomedov was going to be the first champ of the new year.
Yeah.
And I do think he will be.
Yeah.
And...
just do it.
I think it's Nurmagomedov. Yeah. I'm just trying to freshen up our picks a bit.
If O'Malley does it now, you're going to be gutted.
Yeah, I know. I really will, won't
I thought you were going to pick Merab. I thought you were going to be back in Merab.
No, I think seeing some of the back and forth, Merab looks like... I didn't think he fancied that fight.
Yep.
I think he was going to try and get around that fight.
Yep.
And understandable. If you're going to fight an easier fight, fight it. And just seeing some of the back and forth between them as well, he's got under Merab's skin. I think he's got into his head a bit.
Yeah.
And it's never a good thing, is it, when you're listening to Buffer and he says the words Nurmagomedov? Like,
never good.
You know you're going in for a tough night. And yeah, and I think we're going to see a new champ.
Right. Here's Flyweight now, the last in the men's divisions. Alejandro Pantoja. What a year for him it was, 2024. We both picked Pantoja to be the champ by the end of the year. Yes.
Where are we at score-wise?
I believe it's about 3-3.
Right.
I think it's 3-3 now. So we picked
so both 3.5,
Pantoja. No, it's 3-3.
Right.
So I believe, we both picked Pantoja for last year. We were both correct. What a year it was for him. Put on arguably his best performance to date against Asakura. And then back in May, he beat Steve Erceg. Now, I'm going to say this. I want you to pick who you think is going to be champ first, because I'm torn and I don't want to pick the same as you, because I'm torn on which way to go. So I think there's a few guys that could do it.
Right, I'm torn, right?
All right.
So I think Brandon Moreno looked fantastic last time out.
He really did.
Do I want to see Moreno Pantoja again? Yeah, it'd be all right.
I mean, it'd be a great fight because he's always in great fights.
Is the UFC going to be desperate to make that fight again? I don't know. So,
I mean, I do think they love Moreno. And they like having a Mexican champion.
Everyone loves Moreno, you know. So, he's a cool dude.
I think he could fight for the belt before the end of the year, but I'm not sure.
Right. So I'm going to go for a little wild card, and I think I'm going to go for Manel Cap.
Really? That's who you got. Interesting. So I put down that it could be any of 4 of 5 guys kind of get into the belt. I mean, obviously Pantoja's a good shout because he's got wins over Royval, Moreno, and Cap.
Cap looked phenomenal.
He looked great, but very different fighting Pantoja to Bruno Silva. I thought Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval, Manel Cap, Kai Kara France. There's also, even if you don't include Pantoja, what if Davison Figueiredo can still make the weight and comes back down? He's got a win over Pantoja. That's a fight that could happen. So, I don't know. It's just who's going to fight for the belt. If you're Pantoja, you've got wins over Moreno and over Royval, like 2 wins each. So, it's going to be hard for them to get to a title shot, but it's not impossible. Manel Cap looked great, but there's no guarantee he's getting a title fight, and the UFC have been annoyed by him in the past.
True.
Kai Kara France is coming off a huge knockout win, but it's only 1 win. Before that, he was beaten by, was it Albazi? Mm-hmm. But he's got a great thing that he's not had a professional fight against Pantoja. I can't remember if they fought in The Ultimate Fighter, but he's not been beat officially, properly by Pantoja. So that's something Kai Kara France has in his corner. If Figueiredo comes down, he's got to make the weight, which was always tough for him, but he has a win over Pantoja. So that's a compelling matchup. That's probably, out of all of those matchups, that's probably the most compelling.
Tatsuro Taira has also fought Manel Cap, and so there's beef there. And they're
1-1, I think.
So that's 6 and 5. So,
or is that Asakura? Or is Tatsuro Taira fought Manel Cap?
Oh, no, sorry, my bad.
You're Asakura. Asakura is felt.
Yeah, of course.
But Manel Cap, Tatsuro Taira, has looked great until he bumped into Royval. Yeah. So I don't think he's going to be getting a shot anytime soon because I think he's behind those other guys. The worry for me...
You don't think next year, like, the UFC are going to re-sign... Makayev.
I think they could do. I do think that they could sign Makayev, but I also think that he wouldn't get a title shot right away. So I don't think Makayev... I think he's definitely someone to look out for 2026, but I don't think he's going to get there 2025. So it's left with Pantoja is going to be 35 in April. Mm-hmm. You don't get, in the men's divisions at least... champions over 35 in the lower weight classes.
No, you don't.
And so that is something that concerns me, is that will we see a big drop-off with Alejandro Pantoja? Mm-hmm. Oh, it's such a tough division. You're going Manel Cap.
Yeah.
Then I am going to go Pantoja keeps the belt.
Wow.
Yeah. He's going to break the curse.
You think if Moreno gets the shot, he beats Moreno again?
Well, he's done it twice already. I think there's a world in which Pantoja fights like a Manel Cap or a Kai Kara France, and then fights the other one. In which case, I think both of those are winnable fights for Pantoja. Mm-hmm. I think there's a world in which Pantoja fights just once this year and moves up in weight. Mm-hmm. In which case, he only has to defend the belt once. Yeah, I think there's ways Pantoja keeps this belt. And also, he fought in December. So, was it December that he fought?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he's only have to defend the belt once or twice.
Yeah.
Like, he might fight in May and then maybe December again. So, yeah. And if he moves up in weight, who knows? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to go with Pantoja. So you're going Cap, I'm going Pantoja. But honest to God, it could be Moreno, Kai Kara France, Roy Val, could be anyone by the end of the year. Let's move on to the women's divisions. How have you done this? Zhang Weili, strawweight. Women's divisions have not been very active of late, and I think that's going to be a big factor going into this. The last year has seen probably the least women's title fights that we've seen in a really, really long time. In terms of last year, previously, I picked Tatiana Suarez.
Who did I pick?
You picked Zhang Weili. So you are ahead 4-3. But again, my concern is not that I was wrong. I was just early.
Oh, right, okay.
Because I believe it's February, Tatiana Suarez is taking on Zhang Weili for the belt. So I think maybe I was just slightly early. Tatiana Suarez could still get that title.
But does she?
Well, who knows? Belt was only defended once last year when Zhang Weili beat Yan Xiaonan back in April. Mm-hmm. So that belt will not have been defended for like 10 months. It's very inactive.
Yeah, but is that down to logistics of making that Suarez fight happen?
I don't think so. I think there's a problem with the women's divisions at the moment with the UFC, because you looked at the Bantamweight title was not defended or won much. Was it just Rocky Pennington versus Juliana Pena? I can't remember if the Bueno Silva for the vacant title fight was happened that year as well. And then Flyweight, was it just the one Grasso-Shevchenko fight that we had last year, or was it... So it's just not been very active. And obviously Featherweight's done with now in the women's divisions. I think Zhang might be a fantastic shout to keep the belt this year because she isn't very active. Defended twice in only 18 months. She may only have to win this fight, and then maybe she could move up in weight. That's another thing we could see from Zhang. There's a lot of fighters that you think could move up in weight. For Suarez, in terms of her fight in February, and if I were to pick her again to be champion at the end of the year, she's got to make it to the fight. She's another one that's a bit Hamzat Chimaev-esque in terms of she is unreliable. Some of it is, it's not her fault.
See, this is
health
why
issues. She hasn't fought for 18 months.
Happened sooner. I know the Shenang fight had to happen. But yeah, I'm going with Zhang Weili again. I think she's absolutely fantastic, right. and I get excited about watching her fight. And I do think Suarez is a big test, but I just think she's got championship caliber. And I think she keeps hold of it. And I don't see anyone else in that division that's going to trouble her outside of Suarez.
I'm slightly I was torn between Zhang and Suarez. I mean, I picked Suarez last year. I didn't realise how long she'd be out. It's been 18 months. It's going to be...
Still got it wrong, though.
It's still going to be a big ask for her after 18 months to win the belt off of Zhang in February. But I feel like I have to stick with it.
Okay.
a big girl for the weight class. She's got that 8+ skill in her wrestling. It's just whether she can do that to Zhang, because on the feet, Zhang's going to be way better. So it's whether Suarez can pull her down to the ground or not. I think outside of that fight, Viana Jandiroba is probably the next person up, and I don't see her really troubling either woman too much.
I really don't.
So I think, I mean, she's on a 4-fight win streak, Jandiroba. She's been looking good, but I just don't think she's going to beat Zhang or Suarez. So I think the winner in February retains the belt until next year. So I'm going Tatiana Suarez. You're going Zhang Weili. I do feel like I might have thrown that one away, but we shall see. We'll see in February. On to women's flyweight. I previously picked Erin Blanchfield. Unfortunately, that didn't come to pass. You picked Blanchfield as well. So we both picked Erin Blanchfield there. You did say Chevy would come back to win it in 2025. So you were premature on your, or no, delayed, whatever it was, on your pick.
Essentially more right than you.
Well, no, you got it wrong because you picked the wrong year. So we both picked Blanchfield. I mean, Blanchfield, I think, still only about 25 years old. She could still go on to become a champion. She's had a couple of little slip-ups lately. But yeah, the belt only defended once this year in the conclusion to the Grosso-Shevchenko trilogy, where Chevy got the belt back. No need for a fourth fight because it was a very dominant win. 2025 then. The next woman up appears to be Manon Fiorot. Chevy is 37 this year, and she's had a lot of fights. But Manon Fiorot is going to be 35, so it's not like she's a lot younger or anything like that. What are you thinking in terms of this year? And this fight hasn't been booked yet. What do you think happens?
I think I think Valentina fights once this year, and I think she beats Manon Fiorot, and I think she is the champ at the end of the year. Or she...
Oh, hang on. Just literally like put on the brakes there.
I don't see her retiring, but there's a possibility. Because I don't think she's got anything else to prove. She's one of, if not the greatest, to do it. And... she's got some spectacular knockouts. She's Valentina Shevchenko. Yep. Absolutely nothing left to prove. Has done it all. And I think she either retires after her next fight or retains the belt. I think she only fights once this year. And I think at her age she's going to choose her fights carefully, and I don't think she's going to fight too often.
Could she move up in weight?
Yeah, she could. And we're going to get onto that division next, obviously. And I guess the talking point for so many people is going to be Kayla Harrison. If you would have asked me this 6 months ago, if Kayla Harrison fought Valentina, what would happen? I would have been thinking that Kayla would steamroll her. After watching Kayla's last outing, I think it's a winnable fight for Valentina. But we'll get on to whether or not Kayla's going to have that belt because, Pena is legit.
Yep.
So I worry a little with your sort of Peñas and your Harrisons against someone like Chevy that they could grind out boring wins over her, whereas it's whether or not she can really get her striking going. But But
your pick for flyweight is Valentina Shevchenko. I think it's a good pick, and I do think that maybe the inactivity of that division could be something that helps her as well. However, first she's got to get past Manon Fiorot.
You don't see that happening.
Manon Fiorot's big. She's on a 12-fight win streak. She's only ever lost once, and that was her debut. I think she could do it. I think Manon Fiorot could do it. So I'm going to go for Manon Fiorot being the champion of the women's flyweight division at the end of 2025.
So let's say she beats Valentina in April, May.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Valentina says to the UFC, I want one more fight, give me a rematch, then I'll retire? I don't see Valentina retiring on a
rematch
loss.
straight away. I think because she's only would have had she wouldn't have defended the belt in this new era of her being a champion. I think more inclined to go up in weight and try something up there, because regaining the flyweight belt would just not do anything for your legacy and all that stuff. But if you went up to bantamweight and won a belt there, that would improve it and do something. So I think it would be better for her to do that.
Regaining the belt doesn't do anything for your legacy.
Not again. So what? She's come back and won it off Grasso. Okay, brilliant. And then what? She loses it to Man and then gets it back again.
I mean, that's impressive.
I don't think it does that much.
You'd rather feed her to the lions, would you?
The lioness.
Horrible bastard.
I think she'd be better off going up in weight and trying things there, because that's where greatness lies.
So you're saying at the end of the year, Mana's going to have beaten Chevy and
maybe someone else. I don't know who else would be getting the title shot in that division. But I mean, she's already, didn't she beat Blanchfield? Alexa Grasso could come in. Maybe a Macy Barber finds her way into a title shot. I don't know. Natalia Silva as well has looked really good. I really like Natalia Silva. She's a really fun fighter. But I'm going to go Manon Fiorot just because I don't know whether there's going to be another flyweight title fight in the women's division outside of Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot, because there's just not much activity going on there at the moment. Okay. So I'm not sure. So I'm going to go Manon Fiorot. She gets it done. And is this our penultimate one, because you threw in BMF when I wasn't expecting it. Bantamweight. Juliana Pena is currently the women's bantamweight champion.
So I'm imagining Kayla Harrison gets the shot, right, this year. It's got to happen, right? Yes, it was a dull fight in her last fight. But there's obviously been money spent on Kayla Harrison getting into the UFC, and I do think, is a fight with Pena a bit of a bore fest?
I don't know. It could be really interesting. I mean, Pena over 5 rounds can really take some punishment, defend some wrestling a little bit, or at least stay safe in the wrestling, because she's a decent wrestler herself.
Who did we pick last year?
So last year in the women's bantamweight divisions, I picked another corker. I picked Myra Bueno Silva just because she was about to fight for the vacant belt, and I thought she beat Rocky Pennington, and she did not. And you picked Shevchenko. You said Chevy was going to move up in weight, so neither has got a point there. So, yeah, there you go. Where were we at? I'm just really shocked and disappointed that you've won. You have won, officially won. I believe you won. Was it 4-3? 4-3 you won in the end, something like that?
Yeah, it might be more, but still, it doesn't matter as long as I won. Okay, so looking ahead to the bantamweight champion at the end of 2025. Obviously, as we've just discussed, it's currently Juliana Pena, and we imagine that there will be a fight between Pena and Kayla Harrison this year.
Yeah.
Do you see? Do you want me to throw my pick in?
Yeah, go on. I'm still trying to count up the things.
Okay, right. Kayla Harrison grinds out a wrestle heavy win over Pena and takes the belt. The Lioness comes back and absolutely bashes the living hell out of Kayla Harrison, and he's the champ.
So you're going for Nunes. I was wondering whether to go for Nunes on this. You think Nunes returns?
Yeah, I think
beats up
there's
Kayla
nothing
Harrison
there for Nunes other than the massive. If Kayla Harrison gets the belt, there's been so much hype around her and what she's done in other organisations. It's the only fight where, let's say Kayla Harrison gets the belt. How exciting is it going to be watching her fight other people in that division? Not hugely, but if she fights Amanda Nunes, there is a big, big fight. The champ coming back to take on, this new woman that's come in and dominating the division, and I think Amanda just unloads.
Yeah, it's a tricky one with Kayla because Kayla's still not made championship weight in that division either. She's always been at, the 135 limit is 136 for non-championship fights, and that's the weight she's been making. That extra pound could be an issue. She didn't look amazing against Ketlin Vieira, but she did win.
Don't get me wrong. If you're Amanda Nunes, or even if you're Juliana Pena, you looked at that fight and just thought, I'm not that worried. This hype train that has come steaming into this organisation is not the beast I thought it might have been. Maybe she had an off night. I don't know. But, oh, God, if she wins it, and I think Nunes is just Do
you reckon Nunes is sat there ringside or cage side for the fight for Pena versus Harrison?
All day long.
And do you think Nunes comes back even if Pena wins it? I think she could do. She's got some beef with Pena, and it would technically be a trilogy.
Pena needs, a good rival because she talks good smack and she does seem to irritate a lot of fighters. Yeah, and
Pena does well to get interest for fights that really you wouldn't normally be interested in.
Exactly that. Yeah. And I think you throw Kayla Harrison in the mix there, and you throw Nunes in there, and the history with Nunes is great. The narrative's there. I think it makes the bantamweight division interesting and exciting because that division has not been exciting without Amanda Nunes. And that's why I think they're throwing everything in the kitchen sink at Kayla Harrison to bring us a star in and make her this wrecking machine like Amanda Nunes was. And that's how I see it playing out. I think that I do think that Kayla grinds out a win over Pena, and then the Lioness comes back and does her thing.
I find it really hard to disagree with that because I do think Nunes looks like she wants to come back. But again, just to try and be a bit different, I'm going to say Kayla does it. I'm going to say Kayla beats Pena, and either Nunes isn't back in time, or maybe Kayla can do it against Nunes. Maybe that can be done. Maybe she can get a win over her. I mean, I'd find it very difficult for anyone to beat the GOAT. But yeah, I'm going to go Kayla Harrison to end the year as champion.
Okay.
So there you go. Now, the wild card that I wasn't expecting, BMF. Now, you've got Max Holloway there as BMF champion. They don't always stick with who was champion last. Jorge Masvidal was champion and they just went, we'll just do it for Gaethje and Poirier. Obviously, Gaethje was still the champion in the Max Holloway fight. Do you think, because of what happened at UFC 300 in particular, the fashion in which he won, do you think that any BMF title fight must include Max Holloway this year?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, look, the BMF belt was never on the line against Ilya. That was made clear, and rightly so. Whatever the weird world that is the BMF exists in, new kids on the block like Ilya Topuria, they're not in that league yet. It's almost like a veterans league of legends, I guess, and Ilya's not there yet. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Ilya would go through most of the people that would fight for the BMF anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
But he's building his legacy at the moment. So I think we in the BMF, I think we're obviously talking about your Gaethjes, your Poiriers, and your Dan Hookers.
Yeah,
and I can't help but think that might be the fight that happens this year: Max Holloway, Dan Hooker.
Really? Oh, that'd be I would love to see it. So who wins that fight?
Two of my favourite fighters.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, 100%.
Both fucking crazy men.
Yep.
I don't see it being for a while yet. Max needs to heal up. And I mean, Dan Hooker was seen laughing with his face falling off his head in his last fight as well, telling everyone how much he fucking loves this shit.
His man's insane.
Yeah, he's a bad motherfucker.
He is.
And so, I don't know. I think this year, I think Dan Hooker finally gets his moment.
He wins the BMF belt
I think
against
he does.
Max.
I think he does. I think, with Nash, I don't think Dan Hooker's got the power that Ilia Topuria has in his hands.
No.
And I don't necessarily think it'll be a knockout, but I just think Dan Hooker just needs that one moment, and I think it might present itself this year.
That's interesting. So this is kind of wide open because other than Max Holloway, Dan Hooker's a good shout. Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier in one of Dustin's last fights for a BMF belt is a great shout. I mean, Dustin's got 2 wins over Max. I believe they're going to try and do a card in Louisiana, which is Dustin's home state. And that would be massive for Dustin as like a farewell thing.
That's huge.
Throw a BMF belt on the line as well. Absolutely massive. Give Max the chance to avenge the 2 losses against Poirier. Like, that ticks all the boxes. And I think Dustin... 2 wins over Max, surely maybe you'd want to go into retirement going, I've got 2 wins over him and I didn't lose to him, and that would be quite a feather in your cap. But equally, if you want a dance partner for your final fight and the BMF belt can be attached to it and it's Max Holloway, you can't ask for many better opponents than Max Holloway. He'll be respectful as well. It'll be great. The other one to throw in there, I believe, is Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway is a fantastic fight, and Charles Oliveira is a BMF, in my opinion. So there's a lot of options there. The only constant is Max Holloway. So you're better off putting your money on Max Holloway to keep the BMF title, because we don't know who could fight him for it, even if it gets defended at all this year. Because if Max doesn't defend the BMF belt and he fights someone else or looking for the lightweight title, all that kind of stuff, then it may not even get defended. Yeah,
I mean... I know Volk's got Ilya, but if that's taken care of early part of the year, there's always, Volk's got multiple wins over Max. I don't necessarily see that one playing out, but he's obviously an option. The Poirier last fight, that makes sense, mate. That does make sense. You saying that in Louisiana, like a farewell fight. Who's not going to want to watch Dustin versus Max for the BMF? It's great. I don't know if... Do you think Dan Hooker needs one more fight before he fights for a BMF belt?
No, he can fight. I think Dan Hooker, being ranked 6th at the moment, should be looking above him to get 1 win against the likes of Gaethje or Poirier or Oliveira, and then he's going for a proper title shot. I don't fancy his chances. I mean, look what Islam did to him previously, but to fight for a proper belt, that's the one, isn't it? That's what dreams are made of in this sport. So I think if he were to fight Max Holloway for the BMF belt and win it, I think he can go from that straight into a proper title shot as well. I think that's the weird thing about the BMF belt. The BMF belt, when you're throwing people into the mix like Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, when you do that with the BMF belt, it sort of almost becomes a semi number 1 contender belt as well, because there's prestige around it. Prestige is probably the wrong word. There's there's a furore about it. People are interested. What happened at 300 will improve the legacy of the BMF belt for sure, because it's got this incredible moment attached to it. So I do think it'll be something special. When you're like Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal, although actually, did Masvidal fight for the welterweight title after winning the BMF belt? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if he did, but I feel like he might have done. In which case, it just makes you go that even though the BMF belt is supposed to be, the fighters that we love that are never really top 5 or champions, something like that, the BMF might be changing now. And when you're throwing in, as I've mentioned, Poirier, Gaethje, Holloway in those fights.
Chandler?
I'm not interested in Chandler doing it. I don't see Chandler as, he is in fun fights. I don't think of him as BMF, but maybe. I think if Max takes that fight on, then fine. But he isn't winning it. Again, you're better off saying, Max is going to be the champ. But so is your pick for BMF champ Dan Hooker by the end of the year?
I'm going heart over head, and I'm going to say Dan Hooker.
Right. Well, I'm going to go head over heart and say Max Holloway keeps it. But I do think there's a chance he fights Hooker or Oliveira. Oliveira could be a good shout. Oliveira as the BMF champ. I'm going to go Max Holloway. We'll go Max Holloway keeps it. Maybe that's the thing for Max. Maybe there's no kind of proper undisputed titles left in his future, but he becomes like a long reigning BMF champ or something like that. Who knows?
I ain't mad at that.
I ain't mad at it.
Okay, so that is our Who Will Be Champions prediction show. I was the winner. Blake Harrison came last. Let us know what your ones are in the comments below, and subscribe while you're watching this as well. And thanks ever so much for supporting the show in 2024. We've got loads of fun stuff coming your way in 2025. Is that all she wrote?
That's all she wrote. 2025 predictions in the bag. Let us know who you think will be champ by the end of the year in the comments. We will see you later. Bye.